Ladies and gentlemen, Behind the Line proudly presents to you another exciting edition of the Woke Turning On the Woke. This episode is brought to you by the Diversity Deli. Are you looking for diverse nutrition? Is your son marrying his emotional support walrus and you need an inclusive place to cater the wedding? Perhaps you're looking for Jamel Hill's world famous smelly jelly, which can only be found at the Diversity Deli. The Diversity Deli is the proud home of the diverse menu. Whether it's Chad Thundercock's foot-long Frank squeezed between steamed buns or alphabet soupy chased with a woke smoothie, the Diversity Deli has menu options inclusive to all identifiers. Visit our flagship location today at the corner of Pronoun Place in Gay, Georgia. It's never enough. The virtue signaling, the incessant pandering, the fabricated stories of mythical racism. It is never enough. There was a lot to be disgusted with while watching ESPN's coverage of the NFL draft this past weekend. Mel Kyper, he took Skip Bayless' former role at ESPN as the aging fossil obsessed with a young man. For years, Skip Bayless was obsessed with LeBron James. Over the weekend, Mel Kyper was overly emotional and overly obsessed with Shedeur Sanders. Speaking of Shador Sanders, if you were watching ESPN's coverage of the NFL draft, you probably thought that you were watching the season premiere of the Shedeur Sanders show. For 72 hours, it was wall-to-wall coverage of a fifth-round draft pick. If you got bored with nonstop coverage of Shedeur Sanders, that's okay. Mina Kimes attempted to entertain viewers by accidentally explaining why she is unqualified to analyze the NFL. Ironically enough, that was the most informative and the most entertaining part of ESPN's coverage of the NFL draft. Their premier NFL analyst, who also happens to be a pretend NFL analyst, explaining why she is not qualified for her own job. Stephen A. Smith, he was accusing the NFL of the illusion of collusion, which is just another myth created at the worldwide leader in woke, ESPN. The myth of mythical racism topped with the illusion of collusion. According to Stevie, NFL teams were treating Shedeur Sanders like Colin Kaepernick by blackballing him from the league, even though he was drafted. Peter Beater Rosenberg, he claimed that Shedeur Sanders slipped in the draft because white people are afraid of him. Look out, it's Shedeur Sanders. Ah! Throughout the weekend, the pandering at ESPN was absolutely pathetic, but apparently it wasn't enough. ESPN made a monumental mistake this weekend, an egregious error in judgment. They were so busy pandering to black men that ESPN completely overlooked the real ultimate victim, the black woman. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Let's get to the sponsor for today's video, my good friends at Sugar Mountain Trading. Are you struggling with back problems? Do you deal with minor aches and pains throughout your day and you don't want to go to the doctor because all the doctor's going to do is find something else wrong with you? Even worse, prescribe addictive medication that you don't want to take. Me personally, I hate going to the doctor. So does my wife, who actually deals with back pain, which is why she started using CBD lotions and oils from Sugar Mountain Trading. Now, this is not THC. It's not going to make you fail a drug test. These CBD lotions and oils, they are designed for rapid pain relief. Like I said, my wife deals with nagging back pain from time to time. We have tried over-the-counter stuff, tried the chiropractor. Nothing ever seemed to work. Within 5 minutes of me applying CBD lotion from Sugar Mountain Trading, her pain was gone. I'm telling you, it is damn near magical. Sugar Mountain Trading also offers CBD bar soap that will keep you pain-free and smelling fresh at the same time. Bar soap comes in a variety of scents ranging from lavender all the way to cherry almond. All CBD products offered at Sugar Mountain Trading, 100% natural, 100% free of THC. So click the link in the description below. Use my promo code BTL20, BTL20. Save 20% off your first purchase with Sugar Mountain Trading. While watching ESPN's substandard coverage of the NFL draft this weekend, did you ensure that the panel of so-called experts met the stringent diversity standards? Did you make sure that there was representation of every color in the rainbow flag? Me personally, I was wondering why ESPN failed to feature anyone that was actually qualified to cover the NFL draft. They kept presenting this doofus named Mel Kyper and calling him an expert. Same Mel Kyper that claimed David Carr was going to be the cornerstone of the Houston Texans. David Carr isn't even the cornerstone of the Carr family. His brother Donnie had a better career in the NFL, and Donnie sucks. Those of us who are fans of the Saints, we can't wait for Donnie to get the hell out of here. At this point, I would rather the Saints pay Derek Carr $40 million to stay home. While watching ESPN's coverage of the draft, did any of you guys happen to wonder why there were no Native American women included in their draft coverage? What about Jewish women or Persian women? What about men pretending to be women? Did you wonder why Tran Dan wasn't involved in ESPN's coverage of the draft? For the vast majority of people, the answer is no. You weren't worried about inclusivity and representation. You were probably wondering why ESPN had people covering the draft that shouldn't be covering the draft. Not Josina Anderson, though. No. KC, who in the hell is Josina Anderson? I had actually forgotten about her, but apparently Josina is a big deal. If you don't believe me, just ask her. She will gladly tell you. According to her Twitter bio, Josina is an NABJ LGBT awarded journalist. I didn't notice the ++ or the @, so I'm assuming Josina hasn't elevated to that level of indoctrination just yet. She also claims to be an alumni of ESPN, CBS, and Showtime. Judging from her behavior this weekend, those might be all of the jobs that she's been fired from. Josina Anderson went on a Twitter rampage this weekend where she complained about Clay Matthews mentioning Donald Trump. She also complained about the fact that ESPN failed to have a single black woman covering the NFL draft. Now, my inside sources, they are telling me that Mina Kimes was very hurt by this complaint. She thought her inclusion in ESPN's draft coverage was enough to satisfy the woke quota. But once again, Mina Kimes was unqualified to fill a position. According to this insinuation from Josina Anderson, ESPN's coverage of the draft was substandard because it was missing the insight that can only be provided by a black woman. Let me ask you something. How many black women have played in the NFL? In the history of the NFL draft, how many black women have been selected, drafted? According to my calculations, the number of black women who have played in the NFL, it's equal to the number of hairs that Joy Reid has on her head. None. So with that being the case, what possible insight was ESPN missing by not having a black female included in their draft coverage? You know, this is not a race thing. This is not a gender issue. I would not want to be involved personally in NFL draft coverage. Why? Because all I could do is speculate. Ironically enough, that would automatically qualify me to work at ESPN because that's all they did the entire weekend, speculate and get things wrong. I also find it strange that we only hear these complaints when it fits a certain narrative. If you watch ESPN's coverage of the NBA playoffs, you might initially think that you're watching BET. The only white that you see on the screen is coming from the stage lights, which is fine. It's fine. Most of the players in the NBA are black. I would expect the analysts that ESPN hires to cover the league to be former black players. The problem is, that is not who ESPN hires to cover the NBA. As I was watching their playoff coverage this weekend, I noticed that 3 of the panelists, they had played the same number of minutes in the NBA that I had. None. ESPN had Malika Andrews, some doofus named Mark Spears, Kendrick Perkins, and Shanae Aguame. I always get her name wrong, but either way, those were the 4 people covering the NBA playoffs. Outside of Kendrick Perkins, the entire panel has 0 experience in the NBA. How come Josina Anderson wasn't complaining about the lack of white men on that panel, or white women? You mean to tell me that ESPN couldn't find a former white player to be involved in their NBA coverage? That doesn't sound very diverse to me. This disease of diversity, it always works one way. Me personally, I don't care who ESPN has covering sports. I just wish they would put people on television who knew what the hell they were talking about. Their coverage of the NBA is an absolute embarrassment, which is why they had to buy the rights to Inside the NBA, a show that also lacks diversity, but ironically enough, no one cares because it's a great show. ESPN has allowed the disease of diversity to destroy the credibility of the network. They have women analyzing the NBA who aren't qualified to analyze the NBA. They have women analyzing the NFL who aren't qualified to analyze the NFL. But you know, it's strange. To my knowledge, ESPN doesn't have men who analyze the WNBA, and they damn sure don't have any white men analyzing the WNBA. I wonder why. Maybe it's because they can't convince dudes of any race to watch the WNBA, much less analyze it. But give me your thoughts on this. ESPN criticized for lacking diversity during the NFL draft. Josina Anderson complains because ESPN failed to include a black female in their draft coverage. Honestly, maybe ESPN should have included Josina Anderson or someone else in their coverage because it couldn't get any worse. But sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys tomorrow.